Welcome back. So I thought I'd take a few minutes just to sort of talk about my eBay story. How did I get here? How did I end up doing this? I had, a good job. I was an office administrator for, geez, like 20, yeah, well, altogether about 25 years. Um, but I started doing the reselling on my own probably around 2011, I think is when I started, um, into 2012. I was doing it part time. I was pregnant with my son, and I wanted to take some time off from my regular job to take care of him. Because we kind of determined around here if we had paid somebody to do daycare, it was basically taking the place of um, my income. So it didn't make any sense. I'd basically be working to pay the daycare. So it didn't make sense. So I left there for a while. Um, you gotta play with a loud toy. So what ended up happening was once I left, I had my son, and we were basically, it was very small. I didn't have YouTube videos or anything to go by. I was just sort of winging it. I wasn't looking things up the way I do now to get proper comps. And so a couple of things, we hit some really good things, and I was putting almost everything on auction because at the time, now this was around 2011, 12, a lot of people were doing that. And if I remember right, I think it was, and it might be because I was new and I didn't have a store subscription in eBay. So I was doing up to 100 listings in a month without going over, because then you pay more per listing. Because I think you would get like 100 free ones, and I think it was 10 cents a listing beyond that. So I wasn't going over the 100. But then when they get relisted, that counts as another listing. So you have to keep track of how much was going up there, or if you're not making that much on it, your fees could have been eating up your profits. Like I said, that's how it was back then. I'm not sure how it is when you're new now. So basically, we were making enough money to pay for diapers a month. And that was pretty good. That was where we, really needed to be, at least for then. I started to get into it a little bit more. I went back to work when my son was preschool age. So I was off for about 3 years, and then I went back part time, so I could still be with him. He would only went to preschool for like half days. So I'd go to work for a few hours, come back, pick him up from preschool, and then I'm off again. So then I started, once he started regular school, then I started going, working a few more hours, still part-time, but a little more. And then me and my husband really started getting into the reselling, and really started realizing what we could do with it, and that was helping our situations, giving us some extra money. At that time, because I was bringing in an income and I was doing, some stuff. So what ended up happening to push me in full time, I have, we didn't know at the time, I had a disease called ankylosing spondylitis. It limits my movement. Most days are very hard for me to move around. So I have to constantly do stretching, things like that, to keep moving. And of course, I was told it's something there's no cure for, and I have to sort of learn to live with it. And they gave me things to work on bettering my symptoms so that it's not as bad. I don't feel it as much. So, um, but at the time, I didn't know what was happening. Um, I also uh, was diagnosed with Lyme disease. Okay, Lyme disease, another thing that can attack your joints. Um, so I was hurting real bad, and I couldn't move much. Um, I was getting severe pains in my legs. So it just a little bit of an explanation why I ended up leaving my main job completely. Um, so no fault of anyone's really. I couldn't. I wasn't able to move. Everything. My back stiffens up in the morning, and I can't function very well. And this was before I was completely diagnosed. I knew about the Lyme disease, so I assumed it was that. And it wasn't. It was this disease I've had my entire life. I've had aches and pains before, but I was misdiagnosed for a very long time. Um, so they finally got to the bottom of it, and now I've got some control on it, but it still hurts. But at least now I'm more functional. So that's when I really decided, okay, I got to put everything that I possibly can into my reselling business. Also, at the same time, we were in the middle of buying this house. It was important to me to have a one-story house. I didn't want anything to have to deal with stairs too much, although I do have to deal with stairs working in my basement. But I can deal with that. Plus, um, I can move things upstairs if I'm hurting real bad. My son can bring me a box of things and I can do research up there. Plus, I have most of my death piles in the garage too, so I can still get at stuff because stairs can be pretty rough. Um, so yeah, basically that's how I got into the full time aspect. It wasn't really, it was by choice, but I had to do something. Once I left my main job, I had to keep bringing in some kind of income. I was still hurting. Um, I didn't know what was wrong at the time. And I think it was almost 6 months before I got to see the rheumatologist and finally get to the bottom of it. And she had to do a lot of testing um, to finally figure out because I told her what they had previously told me. And she said, no, that's not right. That's not what you got. So she did a lot of testing um, and finally got to the bottom of it. So that's sort of my story. That's kind of where I'm at now. My problem has, I'm under some control with it. And, but again, if I have bad days, I can do some work upstairs. Um, and although I haven't had real bad ones in a long time, um, and sometimes I need help, I'll have my son come down and move things around for me. He's really good about that. Um, my brother came yesterday and helped get those file cabinets down here so they're not, sitting outside. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much my story. Most of it was, first my son coming along and my really wanting to be with him. Determining that it didn't make sense to pay, my income all to the daycare, then I might as well stay home with him. So me and my husband made that choice. Then years later, I tried to go back to work. I was there again for a while, part time, and I ended up leaving due to health issues. Just because I felt like I was calling in more than anything because I was just hurting so bad I couldn't move. Um, so I guess that's it. So that's sort of my story. A little bit of a sad one, unfortunately. But, on the positive side, thanks to reselling, I was able to bring in some kind of income and keep going, even though I was very, I don't want to say disabled. Um, I guess ultimately that's kind of what it was. I was limited on how I could move in that, and it wasn't fair to them because I was calling quite frequently, and I just had to make the decision. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I can't do this to them. Let them find somebody that can come in here and function better than I can. Um, and they were they're very good about it. Um, and still friendly with them too. So it's sort of small towns we live in. So um, it just had to happen that way, unfortunately. So yeah, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. And did you have a similar story? A lot of people make the conscious decision to go full time, and I was thinking about it at that time. Um, but it was actually ultimately it was a health related decision why I ended up doing what I did. So I was sort of pushed into it, um, not necessarily by choice. I was still having a hard time making the decision: do I want to leave here and um, do the reselling full time? And it's it was just it had to happen the way it did. Um, so okay, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.